Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another exciting edition of the Monday Morning Lawyer. I am your host, Attorney Jobeth Bowers, here from my office in Elkton, Maryland. As you guys don't know, as you guys already know, or maybe you're tuning in for the first time, I am an injury attorney here in Elkton, Maryland, primarily handling automobile accidents, and most of them happening here in Cecil County or happening to people who live here in Cecil County. And today's topic, what we're going to talk about today, is when is the right time to hire an injury attorney. And I'm going to give you the brief, short, easy answer. It's as soon as possible. And that sounds like a pretty generic response, but there aren't a whole lot of things within the realm of the law, specifically accident law, that you can ask me and you're going to get the same answer every single time, with the exception of when's the best time to hire an injury attorney. The reason that all the answers are a little bit different for everybody's situation is because everybody's situation is different, except when it comes to hiring an attorney. The sooner, the better is always the case. One of the big differences, one of the main reasons, which is also one of the main differences between injury law and many other types of law, and something that I have found over 10 or more years of working here in Cecil County that people still don't realize, still don't understand, is that when you hire an injury attorney, when you hire Bowers Law, when you hire me, my office, et cetera, you pay us $0 up front. There is no cost to hire us. We work on what's called a contingency basis. This means that, number one, if somehow we have, signed a case, your case, and we're unsuccessful, you owe us absolutely nothing. Even if that means if we incur expenses, let's say we take on a case where we're not quite sure and we need to do some investigation as to how things happen, we start spending money collecting a police report or accident reconstruction or medical bills and records and things like that. And let's say that something makes it so that we can't move forward with the case. No matter what expenses we've incurred, you owe us nothing. A lot of other types of law, let's say you've got some sort of family law situation, divorce, custody, prenup, you're paying that money up front. Oftentimes you're paying hourly. Criminal traffic cases, same deal. When it comes to an injury case, we're getting paid a percentage of what we resolve that case for, whether we do all of the work or some of the work. I stress this because you can hire our office from day one and never have to take a phone call from an insurance company throughout the entire process. Now, there's some little exceptions to that, like they may correspond with you about getting you into a rental car for the damage to your vehicle while it's being repaired, or sending you a check for a total loss or things like that. We stay out of that element of it. We handle the injury portion. So you may talk to some insurance adjusters for the property damage portion, but with respect to the injury portion, if you hire our office right away, you don't need to call your insurance company. You don't need to call the at-fault driver's insurance company. You don't have to deal with any of that. Now, obviously, we can't go to the medical care for you. So if you've got physical therapy, if you need to get x-rays or an MRI or a CT scan, obviously, we're not going to those appointments for you. However, you don't have to collect your own medical records. You don't have to contact any of the insurance companies to set any of this stuff up. You don't have to worry about getting the proper value in a negotiation for your case. Over the years, again, I've been here for 10 plus years handling this law right here in Cecil County. I get so many people that call me from all across the spectrum when it comes to time frame. Sometimes I get calls from people right after the accident, day of, next day, sometimes a week later, sometimes 2 years later. Sometimes waiting longer isn't entirely problematic, but I guarantee you there are things that we will have to redo or fix about the claim process. Also, you may remember one of the earlier episodes of the podcast, second or third week that we did this. I talked about hiring us right away because there's a certain order of operations when it comes to paying things, medical care and otherwise, for all of the billing. And there's multiple different ways. I think it's episode 3 where we talk about how things are going to get paid for. If we're controlling the order of operations, that means we're making sure all the bills are paid the way that we want them paid by health insurance or the reimbursements from personal injury protection. If you go at this on your own, even if you've watched that video, getting it right is very complicated and very tricky. So having us navigate that, the only thing you focus on, the only calls that you're making are to medical doctors and to my office. You get the care you need, you get better, we take care of all of the rest. When it comes to doing some of the stuff on your own, I tell people all the time, why would you do stuff that you're going to pay me to fix? I'm just going to do it all. My office is going to handle it all. You're going to get taken care of. And what you get is peace of mind that it's happening well. And sometimes, I mentioned in that previous episode that with more severe cases, handling things in an order of operations that we dictate might end up in a $10,000 positive swing in our client's favor. It's certainly not the case every time. But even if the difference is $200, $300, $500, that's your money. That should be your money. Additionally, there are different entities. Maryland has this 3-year statute of limitations. That means that you have 3 years from the date of that accident, in an auto accident case, to properly file a lawsuit. Otherwise, no recovery whatsoever. That's a very generic kind of time frame and limit. And we'll talk about that in other episodes. We've got some content on our website that addresses the statute of limitations. It is not universal. And what I mean by that is that there are certain entities in certain situations in which certain types of notice must be provided within shorter timeframes. For example, if you end up in an accident that was caused by a government entity or on a government property or something like that, there's a much shorter notice requirement. You don't have to file the lawsuit within that notice requirement, but there are certain ways in which you have to put them on notice in a certain way using certified mail, specific language in the letter. Otherwise, they can say, hey, we don't have to pay this claim. And for the most part, if those prerequisites were not met, they're right. And even though there's a 3-year statute of limitations, if you go past that deadline and you don't put them properly on notice, you may end up getting a too bad, so sad. And if it's questionable, my office isn't going to take responsibility or sign that case in the first place. So if you're calling us a year and a half after, and there's potential of a government entity involved in that claim, we might not take that case. Even though there's still another year and a half left on the statute, we may investigate certain elements for a very brief period of time and not be able to help you out. So calling us right away is super helpful. Again, I want to emphasize the earlier you get us involved only impacts our fee by us being able to do a better job for you. You don't have to worry about, hey, I know a lot of this work happens in the beginning, and if I do a bunch of it, I'm going to pay the attorney less. Well, if you pay the attorney less, that means we got you a smaller settlement. It's not a good thing. It seems counterintuitive because we exist in this economy, in this market where people are driven to the lowest price. You want your injury attorney to be the most expensive injury attorney because that means that he or she got you the biggest settlement. That's the bottom line right there. So this is going to be a really short episode because the concept is super simple. As you've seen, my office, all we do are auto accidents. There's no reason not to call us day one right away. In fact, take that number, the 885-6200, save it in your phone right now. Save it in your phone right now because you never know when you're going to need us. and you can call us right away because we will get started immediately. This is what we do. My office is set, ready. There are very, very rarely any more questions that we don't already have the answers to, situations that we haven't already experienced. Additionally, there's just, a lot of things that by us handling it from the very beginning run super smoothly for you. So I'm going to keep this super brief for you guys because it was a very simple topic, and, there's devastating consequences if you wait way, way, way too long. So there's no reason not to delay. Again, I want to emphasize that if you have questions, if you have topics, whether they are specific to accident law, which obviously is what I handle all day, every day, or if they're in another area of law, you've already seen some episodes that we've done here where we have guest attorneys come in that I interview. These are really driven because there was some sort of situation that somebody had asked me about using the info at bowerslawmd.com. Send me the email, say, hey, put podcast or something like that in the line so that I can kind of filter that out and be like, oh, here's a podcast question. We won't talk specifically about any of the personal details that you give us, but I will craft an episode and bring in a guest so that we can address the general topic that you're looking at for an answer to. If you're looking for immediate help with the issue that you want also addressed on the podcast, let us know, because in addition to tracking down that expert to do the podcast episode, if you want, per your request, we will connect you with that person probably sooner than the podcast episode airs. There's really no, kind of like the accident and when to hire the attorney, get somebody that is in your corner that can talk to you, that can advocate for you as soon as possible. Most of the time, even with those types of law where you're paying somebody hourly, there are, and I'm not going to go into particulars because they're not areas of law in which I practice, so I can't really tell you how that works, but there are certainly going to be some stones that if they're not overturned early enough could impact you long term. So you definitely want to get somebody qualified, taking care of that pretty much with at least having that conversation with somebody for almost any area of law, but especially accident law. So again, this is your Monday morning attorney, Jobeth Bowers, right here from my Elkton office. Again, you're going to see these episodes continue every Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern, YouTube and on Facebook, on live. You're also welcome to hop into the comments section, either on Facebook or on the on YouTube. We see those live. We didn't get any here today, but we see those live as they come in. So feel free to correspond with us. If it makes sense, we're going to get those knocked out and talk to you about them live. We can, there's no scripts when we do these. We have topics that we choose to talk about, but if that spurs another question that you might have live and in the chat while you're watching this, we're going to get on top of it, especially if it's in the topic. If it's not the topic, we may push that to another episode. So feel free to interact there if the email is not preferred for you. So until next time, again, this is your Monday morning attorney signing off. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.